Hello, good evening. First tonight, the campaigning against the automatic early release of rapists from prison. The father of a woman who was raped and tortured in Sheffield contacted Look North to tell us his daughter's attacker was about to be freed. He served 6 years in a full sentence. A law change means rapists won't automatically be released in future. It comes too late in this case. There's also concern the attacker could return to live in the city on his release. Our social affairs correspondent Emma Glasby has the story.
It's been 6 years since the assault. I'm finding it incredibly difficult to come to terms with the fact that he will be released from prison. I don't believe that someone who is capable of inflicting such inhumane trauma on another person is capable of rehabilitation.
The words of a woman known as Laura. She was raped and tortured in Sheffield by this man. Benjamin Resio Nugent was sentenced to 12 years, but having been in prison 6 years, he's about to be released on licence. Laura and her family now face the reality that her attacker will be free to return to their home city.
I think she's finding it hard to believe that it's happening so soon. She's keen not to be portrayed as someone who shrinks away from this in fear. She's a strong woman. She wants to get on with her life without any further trauma.
Laura's father has started a petition to try and prevent the early release of any other rapists who've only served half their sentence behind bars.
The law on rape has been changed recently, so in the future, I don't think rapists will be given half a sentence on licence. But that doesn't help anybody who's already a rape survivor, whose attacker might be freed any time in the next few years. And I don't see how politicians can speak about women being safe on the streets when they allow people to be let out halfway through a sentence.
The Ministry of Justice says this was an horrific crime, and while sentences are determined by judges, we have changed the law to ensure serious violent and sexual offenders spend more time behind bars. Those released on licence face strict conditions, including non-contact orders and exclusion zones, and a return to prison if they breach them. Laura and her family wait to hear what restrictions her attacker will face.
Laura's lucky enough to have channeled her anger at the injustice of this. Every day we have to try to build something good out of what we've got as a family and try and concentrate on moments of life that are worth living.
Well, if you or someone you know has been affected by the issues raised in Anne's report, you can contact the BBC Action Line via bbc.co.uk/action line for details of organisations which offer advice and support. Figures released today show the economy coped better than expected during the latest lockdown as businesses adapted to social distancing measures. The Chancellor has called it a promising sign. But there have certainly been winners and losers in our region as COVID restrictions are eased. Luxby Gopal has been to Thirsk and Leeds to find out more.
Two businesses preparing to welcome customers inside for the first time in months.
I'm Andrew and I own an indoor play centre in Thirsk.
I'm Cameron and I'm a pub landlord in Leeds.
Indoor play centres can reopen from Monday after being closed much of the past 14 months. But it's still a worrying time ahead for Andrew, who fears social distancing restrictions may continue well into the summer.
We don't know what will happen once they open because we don't know what the footfalls will be, the added restrictions. We've got the uncertainty of what's going to continue after June the 21st. Summer times are usually a quiet period for us, but we have the children's parties coming in. We're not allowed to do those, and that's a substantial part of our income.
How much has the government support been helpful?
If without the government grants, we would not be here today. I know others aren't so lucky because of the way that the funding was made on based on your annual business rates.
Latest figures from the Association of Indoor Play show 1 in 5 centres has permanently closed since lockdown last year, and those that are left can only operate at a 60% capacity when they reopen on Monday. But there may be cause for wider economic optimism. Official data out today shows while the economy remains nearly 9% smaller than before the pandemic, it did have a slight growth spurt in March when schools reopened. The Chancellor says it shows government support for businesses is working.
They had workers on furlough. They're now able to have brought them back. They are reopening and actually looking forward and taking on new staff. For example, here, new Kickstarter. And that's what I want to see across the country. And that's our plan for jobs working in action. And that's what today's figures show.
While it's little consolation for businesses who feel they're currently on a knife edge, for some, the limited easing so far has already brought a surge in turnover. This 150-year-old pub saw record-breaking sales.
The first week of opening, I was expecting it to get busy anyway, but it got out here, this beer garden was full of the queues down the road. The pub's used to doing about 8 to 10 grand a week. We've been hitting numbers over 20, 25.
The pubs had to take on new staff, and with indoor service allowed from Monday, the landlord's feeling confident about the coming months. But there'll be many businesses more cautiously hopeful, with the summer ahead still an unknown quantity. Lakshmi Gopal, BBC Look North.
Let's bring some news in brief now. 29 men have been charged in connection with child sexual exploitation in West Yorkshire. The alleged offences took place in 2003 to 2010 in Halifax and Bradford and relate to one female victim who was aged between 13 and 20 at the time. The 29 men have been charged with a range of sexual offences and will appear at Bradford Magistrates Court in July. The sister of murdered Batley MP Jo Cox is to put herself forward as Labour's candidate in the constituency's upcoming by-election. Kim Leadbeater is an ambassador for the foundation set up in her sister's name. She says she will be honoured to have the opportunity of standing for the Batley and Spence seat. The by-election was called after local MP Tracy Brabin was elected as the Mayor for West Yorkshire. And keeping with the Mayor for West Yorkshire, Tracy Brabin has chosen her deputy for policing. Alison Lowe, who was a councillor in Leeds for nearly 30 years, has been recommended for the position. The appointment still needs to be approved by the West Yorkshire and Police Crime. North Yorkshire's new police, fire and crime commissioner says tackling so-called county lines drug dealing will be a top priority. After winning last week's election, Philip Allott finally takes over tomorrow. He says he wants to recruit more police officers and tackle antisocial behaviour, as well as dealing with criminals who move drugs into North Yorkshire from other areas. Reds fans will start to find out from tomorrow morning if they've been lucky enough to be allocated a match ticket to the home leg of Barnsley's playoff semi-final. The team will play against Swansea next Monday. A maximum of 4,500 tickets have been made available for the match through the club ballot that's now closed. Fans will sit in bottles of 6 around Oakwell, with limited movement around the stadium on the night. Now today is International Nurses Day, and what a year it has been for the thousands of nurses working tirelessly across our region in hospitals, GP surgeries and care homes too. Well, we've asked you for your tributes to nurses who've taken such great care of you and your loved ones. Here are just a few messages of those thanks.
I was taken quite ill at work, which turned out to be COVID. Obviously I couldn't see family and friends like everybody else that had COVID, so it made it quite hard. And that's when the nurses more than stepped up and became a family and friends, basically. I can't thank them enough for everything that they did. The bottom line is, without them, I wouldn't be here now.
My dad, Edward Mountney, aka Ted, died of COVID on the 16th of October. I just wanted to say thank you to all nurses, and I'm so grateful to a nurse I've never met because she took a day shift, she's done a full shift and she stayed with him till he passed on. So I just wanted to say thank you to them.
I'm 42 years old, and I have full types of arthritis, and I've needed care since I was 11 years old. In that time, I've met lots of nurses who've taken care of me and have been there and been so kind and caring, and I just want to say a huge thank you for all you have done.
This past year, it's been challenging. It's been really, really tough, both for ourselves and the patients. So it's just a massive thank you. We've done it. We've got through it together. So well done.
Yes, lots of thanks for the wonderful work the nurses do. Let's find out what's going on with the weather. Here's Paul.
Right. That's it. Thanks for watching. Well, again, good evening. Well, it remains very unsettled over the next 2 days, and we've still got some thunderstorms in the forecast.